The Wednesday week is sponsored by Bentoria.com. That's BENTORIA.com.
There's a chance here, a great save. A turner from McClare. Might come. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Frenchman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble saving that.
The Wednesday week! Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me on the line, first of all, we have Victoria. Hello there, my darling.
Hello there, my lord.
My word, that was very loud, my darling. Are you in a fine voice today?
Do I sound good, my lord? Because I'll tell you what, I've got my muff out.
You've always got your muff out, my darling. We've all seen the photos for that. And of course, we've also got to Eddie. Hello there, Eddie, old boy.
Now do the stanky leg. Now do the stanky leg. Now break your legs. Now break your legs. Now watch me whip. Now watch me nay-nay. Evening.
I prefer not to watch you nay-nay, if you don't mind, Albeen. And of course, we've also got James. Hi there, James Albeen.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Oh, and you too. And what a wonderful start it's been. Right, so of course we've got quite a bit to get through. It's been a rather busy period, what with Vix having a muff out and Eddie doing his nay-nays, etc., etc. So let's crack on, shall we? First of all, let's have a little ramble about the Fulham game. I think it's fair to say a good time was had by all.
I think more than a good time. I think I speak on behalf of those of us that went down there. I think that might have been one of the most surreal and brilliant days of any of our lives. But you know what? We've had 72 hours to think about it, and as much as there's plenty of fun to be had, actually going down there and beating Fulham on their patch for the first time since God were a lad is unbelievable. And in the cold light of day, everything else that happened that weekend will be forgotten, but what will be remembered is possibly, since John Harkes in 1990, the best goal that Sheffield Wednesday have ever scored, and 3 points that might very well, in the final analysis, be the 3 points that kept us believing that we could compete and be, as Channel 5 put it, a big part of the promotion race.
It was a really, really good win. Fulham are no mugs, and we know that we said last week on the podcast that they could score. So to keep a clean sheet against them was fantastic. Their defence hasn't been good, but obviously they've got a new guy in now. They've had Stuart Gray there for a while, so they'll be tightening that defence up. So it was an interesting and potentially difficult time to play them, and we came away with 3 points, which is great. I also really feel pleased for us as a club, and probably for Carlos, because I think he was really justified in the changes that he made for the game against Middlesbrough, considering the fact that we did all right in that game, but he was really prioritising the Fulham game. He felt that was the place that we could go and get 3 points, and we did, which is brilliant. So, I think smiling faces all around.
Well, it has to be said that, of course, Fulham did have the vast majority of the possession, which it didn't really seem that way, looking back at the game itself. And my man of the match for the entire thing was the Fulham goalkeeper, Longham. He had some belting saves. Otherwise, we could have been sort of 3 or 4 up, couldn't we?
So the funny thing was that actually it was a mirror image of a lot of the games that we've had, especially away, where we have really kind of dominated possession. We've pressed high, we've taken control of the midfield, and we've passed it around in a quite controlled fashion all the way through the season. And actually, Fulham came out and kind of did that to us, and we were, I suppose, reduced to playing on the break. And we did have quite a few chances in that first half, and I think that we gave a good account of ourselves, but it was a very, very different shape to the game than we've had in other successful away trips, and also the way that we've played at home, because we absolutely conceded possession in the midfield, and it really was a lot of labouring and a lot of running around from Bannon and Forestieri and Wallace, but it wasn't really making a difference in the possession stats. It wasn't really shaping the game. They were just grabbing the ball and trying to make something happen early doors. And really, the goal kind of came out of that kind of half chance, or somebody thinking, I'm going to go into business for myself and try and make something happen. But I think Fulham, they really impressed me in the way that they kept their shape. They dominated possession. I think that they were probably a little bit upset in the fact that our counterattacks proved quite successful, because there were a lot of saves by Andy Lonergan well before Ross Wallace decided he was going to light the entire game up. So, as far as Wednesday were concerned, I suspect up until 28 and a half minutes of that game had gone, I suspect Carlos was tearing his hair out, because we really, in terms of a game plan, just weren't in the game, were we?
No, I think it feels like a really big or a really important win, that as well, because we were all under the impression that Hutch had come through his knock and that he was going to play, and then when we got to the ground and found out that Sasso was playing, and we've not seen a lot of Sasso, but I think what we have seen is maybe not really kind of got us too excited this season. So we all kind of thought, oh, we've got a little bit of a makeshift defence there. We're playing the team with officially the best attack in the league. So you just started to feel a little bit like this doesn't feel like it's going to be our day. So I think it was a really important and special win for that reason, and because, as you said, Eddie, we had to win the game in a different way to what we're kind of used to. And you have those kind of games in a season where it just feels like something special because of the circumstances around it. The fact we've got a couple of players out injured, the fact they had new manager syndrome going on, and they score goals for fun. It just feels like that win might be something that we look back on later in the season and say that's when everything really fell into place for us.
I didn't go to the game. As you'll find out why I'm so upset in a minute. But I did go to an awesome wedding, so congrats, Mark and Katie. Blah blah blah. But I was going to say that Sasso got in the Championship Team of the Week as well. So he must have done something right. Like you said, we've not really seen him that much. He's not really stood a chance with what we've got so far. But all of a sudden, he's up there with the best players in the league this week. So it's got to be a good sign.
It was super pleasing, actually, that when you look at the team that we put out, I think before the game, there were a lot of those Wednesday fans, at the ground, and also those listening from 150 miles away, who were thinking, you know what, this isn't the strongest team that we've put out. We worry at times that we've got a very, very strong first 11 and we don't necessarily have that strength in depth. But you know what? Atinuiu probably had his best game of the season. Vincent Sasso was absolutely faultlessly good. And for me, head and shoulders the man of the match, not only just for what he did on the pitch, but the fact that he stepped in to some very big shoes and we didn't miss a beat. There were some crucial saves from Wildsmith, and every one of them was an unbelievable reaction save, further cementing the fact that this guy's the real deal. Sasso's two last-ditch tackles, getting the ball inside the 18-yard box, were absolutely textbook, unbelievable. And Nuiu played like, the best hold-the-ball-up striker that has ever played the game. Those three, I think, made up for the fact that in midfield we were cramped, we didn't get the space, and things weren't really happening for Forestieri, for Wallace, for Bannon, and for Kieran Lee. So, other than the goal, I actually think that our performance really hinged on the three players who came in and who were probably the most easy scapegoats for Wednesday fans watching the game. So I'm so pleased for them, because not only does it demonstrate that we've got actual strength in depth and we can shuffle the pack and still come up with really, really key results, but also for those guys individually, they probably have had doubts in terms of what their role that they've got is to play in a Sheffield Wednesday team that is fighting to try and get up in that group of teams that's battling for promotion. And every one of those guys delivered. And they can look themselves in the mirror and go, you know what? I'm good enough to do it at this level. And that, for me, speaks volumes. I'm so happy for all three of those guys.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody had a particularly bad game. Obviously, Palmer got some hammer last week, and I think he played really, really well as well. But of course, the absolute sort of show stealer, if you like, was the just incredible goal by Wallace. It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Do you know what? When I was sat in the away end on the far left-hand side as you look at the pitch, and obviously Wallace's shot was from the right-hand side, and Eddie was almost exactly 2 rows in front, so we'll have probably had a similar view to this, that when Wallace hit it, my thought was, oh, what on earth is he doing? It looked like it was going, row Z over and wide, and I actually kind of glanced away. I didn't even bother watching the shot kind of land because I was so certain it was going miles over and miles wide. And then, it did dip relatively late, hit the bar, went in, stunning goal, amazing. And the scenes in the away end were, the sort of which I've not seen for a long time. Everything went mad. You were hugging strangers. You got strangers falling on top of you from 2 or 3 rows behind. It was a brilliant moment and a brilliant goal.
I took my beautiful lady wife and my son along with me, and so I was stood next to my son, and we watched that goal go in. And ever since the goal went in, he's kept nudging me, going, Dad, from where we were stood, it didn't even look that good of a goal. It looked like he hit it from the edge of the 18-yard box. And it wasn't until we saw it on video that you realise quite how much of a stellar, like a goal of the season candidate goal that was. It was a very, very special moment. And you know what? A long time coming, because an awful lot of those 4,000 or best part of 4,000 Wednesday fans that were there, they were also there last year, where Fulham took our arse and handed it to us. So more than happy. But that was a pretty special moment, and the fact that it came kind of towards the end of the first half, it certainly contributed to the quite ludicrous scenes on the concourse at halftime, where I think the amount of beer and humanity that was down there combined was unprecedented. So yeah, well done to everyone who was down there.
I was sat on a table with my darling fiance and a wonderful man called Craig, who just happens to be a Wednesday fan. He's ex-army, he's absolutely awesome, chatting away to him. And he just happened to ask me if I'd seen the score. And this is about half time. And the clip was already up on Twitter. And we sat during the main course of the wedding meal, just admiring the goal over and over and over again. It was just unbelievable. And all through the speeches, we just kept looking at each other going, that goal, though. I mean, that goal. So stop the couple getting married.
That poor bride.
That goal. Oh, she looked beautiful. She did look beautiful, but that goal.
Real credit to the fans for Saturday as well, because I've been at a couple of games recently where it's been a little bit muted. Obviously, MK Dons was probably to be expected, but another couple of games where it's not kind of quite got kind of the party feel that maybe we're used to as Wednesday away fans. On Saturday, from start to end, it just did not stop. It was absolutely brilliant. And it was brilliant to hear a Gary Hooper song at last, which lasted for about 20 minutes at the end of the game.
The song?
It just kept
is it
going
not
and going
Gary Hooper's dad?
Gary Hooper. There's more.
All right, yeah.
After feeling like a bit of a lone voice on the Gary Hooper front for a couple of weeks, I'm really pleased that it seems like everyone's starting to see the role that he plays a little bit now, and fans singing his name for 20 minutes would suggest that a lot of people have really started to sign up to the fan club. I tell you what, I did notice at the start of the second half, and it was only a ripple, but there was a group of fans singing David Garrido's name.
My wife started that chant. She
Really
spotted him down the bottom and started a David Garrido chant that was then picked up by a load of... Well, we were quite close to a large group of men who I can only assume had been in Fulham since the last time we played there and had just drunk all the way through the intervening 365 days. I'm so glad for David that he's finally getting the recognition that he deserves from everybody else other than... people who he bribes to be his friends through giving them unlimited access to Sky Sports.
Oh, he's got nice brown eyes, and he's a lovely man, and he loves Wednesday, and he's a good presenter. And also,
jokes, Dave. We bleeding love you, pal.
And also, we can sing Jason Derulo at him because it really pisses him off. So, David Garrido.
Of course, if you haven't seen the videos or seen the tweets or anything at all like that, what my podcasting chums are referring to is before the Fulham game, Mr. Greedo was incredibly kind enough to invite Eddie, James and Mr. Fudge round to have a little nosy at the Sky Sports studios. And judging by the photographs and the naughty little video that Fudge took, it looks like a fantastic time was had by all.
Can we just point out here that, bless him, God bless David Garrido, when we first got him on the podcast, which, let's be honest, we didn't think he'd say yes. He was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And we proper put him on the spot and said, can we come to Sky Sports News? And God bless him, a few months later, there you guys were. He's got you proper VIP access. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, and it was, because I think we kind of thought that it was going to be kind of like right, that's where such and such is recorded, yeah, this is a sound booth here, and that's such and such. I mean, I certainly didn't expect it to be as involved as it was. So we found ourselves in the Soccer Saturday studio at one point. Sat, obviously there were 5 of us there, sat in the 5 chairs having photographs taken, and then one by one, all the actual Soccer Saturday guys started coming in. So Jeff came in, Paul Merson came in, Matt Letizia came in, they all came in, and we were just stood there watching them get ready. And then the actual show started, like live. The actual Soccer Saturday started in front of us. We were stood just behind the camera, and we saw like the first 10 minutes of it being broadcast, and you're like, is this really happening? This is the most surreal thing that has ever happened in my life. And just as we were leaving, as we were in reception about to leave, in walks Thierry Henry. Just when you think it can't get any more surreal, Thierry Henry walks in, and we're like, oh, hi Thierry, can we just get a quick photograph with you? It was just, there were no words. It was absolutely marvellous. We were there for about 2 hours, and it was brilliant. Huge thank you to David for making that happen. But you know what as well? An absolute massive thank you, and I know they won't listen to this or won't hear it, but every single person that was working there, because everyone was so welcoming and so friendly and so nice to us.
So I'm sat at this wedding, and everyone we talked to, like, my other half got a little bit drunk, and he was like, she should have been at Sky Sports News today, but because it's our best man's wedding, she's come here. I was like, all right, make him feel like really chuffed, why don't you? But then the next thing, you guys text me a photo of you with Thierry Henry, and I could have punched, not the bride because she's pregnant, I could have punched the groom. I was just like, are you kidding me? What on earth is this? Like, don't get me wrong, it was the best wedding we've ever been to, but still, guys, Thierry Henry, did someone touch his crotch?
Well, I tell you what, Laura got very, very involved in ensuring that Thierry was in the right part of the frame for
God
David's
bless
photo. James and I literally made a beeline for Thierry, and I was like, I'm getting this. Before I knew it, my own wife had cock-blocked me and was squeezing Thierry quite tightly for at least the 20 seconds that he quite happily posted photos. So, kudos to her. And you know what? I wouldn't mind, because not only would I let my wife sleep with Thierry Henry because he's Thierry Henry, I would be there. I would have fought her off for the chance to sample Thierry's Vavavoom. So, yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. But you know what? Even before that, like James said, it was the most surreal and brilliant day ever. Just because we're wandering around these studios, these sets that you see on a weekly basis, in some cases a daily basis for the Sky Sports News studio. But stuff like the football España, the La Liga coverage, they've got an actual tapas bar, but it's an actual tapas restaurant. Complete, the table stays laid. There's glasses there. There's knives and forks and everything. It's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, everything about Sky Sports was incredible. And what a way to start what turned out to be an absolutely incredible day. So massive
high
thanks
five,
to David
Garrido.
Yeah,
what a legend.
There's a lot of quote unquote celebrities who they'll latch onto football teams and they'll say that's my team and I support them, and etc. I'm sure they're big fans, etc. But you know what, Dave, not only being one of the nicest guys that you'll ever meet, also legitimately loves not only Sheffield Wednesday Football Club and his job, but he also loves the fact that he gets to kind of combine the two. There's no ego there. There's no it wasn't about going to see David Garrido, going to see where he worked. He was literally as much of a fan of as any of us going into the Soccer Saturday studio and being able to randomly talk to Paul Merson and Phil Thompson and give them our views on whether they should have bet on both Sheffield clubs winning on Saturday in an accumulator. Like I said, surreal, madcap, weird, brilliant, wonderful 2 hours out in West London. And the only thing that I can say about how special the Wednesday result was, to bring it back relevant to everybody else, is that when I was on the train back up to Yorkshire after the game, I was actually still more stoked for the Wednesday performance and the 3 points than I was meeting Thierry Henry and Jeff Stelling and Matt Letitia and all of these guys that we did in the morning. It put it all into the shade, because that is an absolutely bloody crucial away win that puts us right up there at the turn of the season.
Hey, we all got to touch the tie as well.
I know, guys. Do you know what? I'm so happy that you had such a good day out. It looked brilliant. I love the FaceTime calls. I love the text. I love the photos. I love the video that we put up on YouTube. It really, really did look like a brilliant day, and I'm so jealous. But David Garrido, at some point, me and my fiance would like to come down. Please, can we come round, please?
I think after Fudge's antics of videoing when he shouldn't have.
I'm not in
Probably
the same
not.
group as Fudge. So just cast aside Fudge. No one cares about Fudge. Just get rid of that.
And of
We're
course,
really well behaved.
you've heard us speaking about the video as well. James, Eddie, and of course Fudge have been kind enough to video some of their experiences, not just from the Sky Sports studios, but of the actual match day as well. And we've posted that up on YouTube. And I must admit, chaps, you've done a cracking job. It's a belting video, so please do pop over to the Wednesday Week YouTube page, and you'll see all that over there as well. Oh no. Jeeves, we're going to need some more equipment.
Then you need to speak to Oddballs, a speciality.
What the?
Oddballs, a speciality deal in steel, food, and engineering equipment.
Where's that voice coming from?
We offer great deals on all types of equipment and can include dismantling, delivery, and erection anywhere in the world.
Did he just say erect?
We can also buy your surplus equipment or sell it on commission. With over 30 years' experience, let us achieve the best deal for you.
Where can I find out more, Voice in the Sky?
Go to www.bentoria.com.
You heard him, folks. Jeeves, get a broom. Right then, ladies and gents, so let's crack on with some Wednesday news, shall we? And of course, the transfer window is well and truly open. Of course, again, we seem to be linked with everybody and the mother during this transfer window, don't we? It's just rather ridiculous at the moment. But there have been some slightly more serious rumours than others, shall we say, that have come from more respectable sources. The first one of those is Nick Blackman, of course, over there at Reading at the moment. Ex-Blade. Now, it has to be said, he's not had the most marvellous career. Poor chap had to endure over at the other side of the city. And even at Reading, the beginning of his stint there wasn't fantastic, was it? But can't argue with this year. He's been absolutely on fire, hasn't he?
He's banging form. There's no doubt about that. Looking around Twitter this evening, it looks fairly nailed on that he's off to Derby anyway. So I don't think it's really going to be much of an issue for us. All I would say on it is that, yeah, you're right. You're probably right in terms of the fact that he's having one good season. He did very well in League One with Sheffield United. Let's not forget that, and that got him his big kind of move back up the leagues. But whether or not we would really want to be spending that amount of money on him, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be a problem anyway. I think we'll find that he's going to be a Derby player before the end of the week.
It's funny because I don't think he's an upgrade on what we've got, really. I think he's useful. He's adding to the options that we've got. But is he a game changer? Does he make us a much better team and kick us onto that next level? No, probably not. Interestingly, talking about the Twitter traffic and the Twitter static, it seems off the back of this impending move to Derby, suddenly now a lot of the wire services are talking about us getting back in touch with Blackburn about Jordan Rhodes. So we'll see how that develops. But that could just be paper talk like usual.
I was thinking this morning, I can't believe we are, 5-6 days into the transfer window now, and we've not been linked with Jordan Rhodes. What's going on?
Well, that streak is over because
there we go.
It's all over Twitter now.
Normal service is resumed.
The other sort of big rumour that's been bandied around is Mr. Judge from Brentford, which the Brentford fans seemed appalled at the idea of losing him, don't they?
This is interesting, because if you remember earlier in the season, we went down to Brentford and I did a lot of very drunken audio with a guy from the Brentford podcast down there. And we've stayed in touch, actually. We've stayed in touch quite a lot. And he messaged me a couple of days ago and says, might be something breaking that you'll be interested in. And I messaged him back saying, as a joke, said, please tell me that it's us signing Alan Judge. And then he messaged me going, oh, well, yeah, could be. This is interesting because he's a good player, Alan Judge. He's a really good player. There's been loads of stats banded about over the last kind of 48 hours since this started to break, and I think one is that he's been involved in, so either scored or set up 2/3 of Brentford's goals this season, which is a phenomenal stat. He's probably the most informed player in the Championship. He's been brilliant. I think the difficulty comes that we've bid, 1 million that we went in with at the start. Brentford value him at somewhere around 6 million, but the wages that we've offered him, he definitely wants to come here. Seems to be the situation. It's a matter of whether or not we can strike a deal with Brentford, and it seems like the way they do business is, this is what we're asking. If you match that, then you can have him. So we'll probably have to fork out 6 million if we really want him. He is a heck of a good player, and that would be a huge statement of intent in terms of the fact that Mr. Chansiri is looking at this season and the way that it's going and thinks one or two more very good quality footballers, and we could be looking at promotion this season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
The boilerplate here in January for a club just on the fringes of the playoff race is to sign a centre-back, a midfielder and a striker in January to put you over the top. So I think we all acknowledge the fact that due to the injury situation, our need at centre-back is probably the most pressing immediately, although that that will diminish over time as the injuries recover. I think up top as a striker, I think it's clear that what we don't have, although we've got a lot of very competent strikers and we're scoring a decent amount of goals, is a striker who is head and shoulders above our competition. So, yeah, that makes absolute sense. The strange thing for me is that when you look at our midfield, we have probably 4 of the top 6 or 8 midfielders in the league in terms of form and in terms of performance and certainly in terms of quality of goals. So Alan Judge is an interesting one because, yes, he's probably one of the other best midfielders in this division who aren't playing for Sheffield Wednesday currently. It'd be interesting to see how he fits into a system where Banana has traditionally sat on the left. We've got that kind of Lee Hutchinson axis in the midfield and Wallace on the right. I think there's a case to say that arguably he's an upgrade on any of those players, but I think he probably fits in as a peer to all of those. If I'm honest, I really like him as a player, and he really, really showed his ability against us at Brentford earlier in the season. If we are going to be paying, above say £4 million for a player in January, I would sooner it was going on a player at the top end or the backside of the pitch rather than a guy in midfield. To me, that money is better spent elsewhere. I don't know whether you guys agree.
It's a fair point there. I think you made that pretty well. My kind of original thought with it was that maybe Carlos is viewing that Wallace is not going to play every game this season. I don't know how Wallace is. Is he 30, 31, something like that? So maybe he thinks that it's that side of the pitch where we kind of need something, and maybe that's where Judge can fit in. He's a fairly flexible player, isn't he? He can play in kind of 2 or 3 different positions, so could fit in. I think you're right in the respect that £6 million is a heck of a lot of money to spend. But then again, if he feels that we do need some improvements and the money is there, then we're best off spending it on the very best that we can get. Really, I don't know. It's a weird one, this is because
you've got to look at our injuries as well. Like Carlos came out today in the press and said that hopefully this week Lees, Hunt, Westwood, Turner, and Lopez will be back in training. But he also said that McGugan, Matthias, and Bush will be back soon. So within 1 to 2 weeks, he'd have a full squad as far as he's concerned. So why do we need someone else? We're doing all right. Like,
Well, we do. We need
do we really
people who are going to
desperately?
make us better. So that that's why we're talking about getting the very, very best who is going to improve on what we've got. And I think it's easy to make a case for the best defenders or the best strikers at this level will improve what we've got. But I would put our midfield up against any other midfield in this division. So really, and Alan Judge is just increasing the amount of flexibility and the amount of depth that we've got in that position. I'm not saying it's a bad move, and I absolutely would love to see him sign for Sheffield Wednesday, but not at the expense of those other positions for me.
I agree with that, and I think we've got to strengthen those other positions. I don't know if we are desperately in need of another striker, assuming that Gary Hooper is going to stay, unless the right striker becomes available. The central defence is an area that we need to improve. My thought with midfield is that if we have a scenario around at the moment where we're reliant on someone like Sugu to be backup, who I don't think is good enough, then yeah, we probably do still need one or two people, either not bargain basement people, but shrewd business who provide better cover than someone like Sugu does, or someone that can come in and go straight into the first 11 and maybe knock someone else a little bit further down the pecking order, so that we're not reliant on players that really aren't at the quality that we want to be looking to be.
Yeah, getting Matthias and Lopez back is that's going to have a big effect on our strength in depth at the moment.
Yeah.
And of course, as we have got, there's been various sort of tweets and Facebook messages and etc. saying that Sheffield Wednesday are ready to spend this transfer window, which is of course going to push up the price of any players as well. And I'm sure we'll be continuing to link with anybody that seems to become available. Of course, there's been a little bit of other Wednesday news this week as well, a rather large news. We now have some more choices when it comes to purchasing a season ticket with Sheffield Wednesday. 1, 2 and 3 year deals for the season ticket. Now, I've not seen this before from anybody. Is this the first time this has happened?
I think going back, there was kind of back at the kind of turn of the Premier League days, there were quite a lot of clubs who did 10-year season ticket, effectively a debenture that bought your seat for 10 years. But they use that for very specific projects, usually in Arsenal and West Ham's case, to improve the stadium. So it's something that is well established in football, but we don't seem to be doing it for any other reason than to lock in revenue and be able to plan better going forward. I think from the fans' perspective, what the key thing is let's look at what the next 2 years or 3 years will bring, and make a decision based on, if we buy now, how much are we going to spend after those 3 years, versus if we don't, what are we going to spend given the expected trajectory of the club. Now, there was a lot of discussion around what that price level would be set at. From seeing what the club came out with, what it looks like to me is that the club have set the prices at a level that deliberately makes it very, very clear to fans that if they have a plan of being a season ticket holder at Sheffield Wednesday, especially given that whether it's this year or next year or the year after, there is going to be a significant and credible fight to get back into the Premier League, that there is no way that they can watch Sheffield Wednesday cheaper over those 3 years. Now, the key as far as how that is achieved for fans is how they can afford to make such an investment up front. And I think there's some questions as to the payment plans that have been made available to fans. So as it stands, as I understand it, the fans can sign up to 1, 2 or 3 years at set prices, and if they want to finance that using a kind of direct debit finance plan thing, that finance is only over the first 10 months. So if you buy a 3-year season ticket,
What?
you have to pay for it over the next 10 months. So for fans, what that means is that in the past for spreading their season ticket payment over 10 months. They used to be paying, £30 or £40 a month. Now they're going to be paying, to maybe even £100 a month for those first 10 months. But then the next 3 years, they don't have to worry about paying for a season ticket. For me, personally, I think a successful campaign would need to give the fans the opportunity to pay for 3 years of season tickets over 3 years. Now, if that includes a little bit of interest payments or a setup fee, then so be it. The fans will make that choice. But I can only speak personally. I'm going to be buying season tickets for 2 adults and 2 children. Over 10 months, I'm going to be expected to find £300 to £350 a month for that. So that's a big decision for me to make, and I haven't made that decision yet. So I think, in common with an awful lot of what the club have done, I think they've come up with a really interesting idea, and maybe they're going to have to look at look at revising the way that they're offering that to the fans to make it a real success.
I agree. It's an interesting idea, but how many of us? I mean, obviously, like there's so many of us my age. There's me and my best friend. We're both saving for a wedding. We both can't afford to pay out 150 quid a month. Plus,
what's
our
more
partners,
important,
or
Victoria?
whatever.
Watching Sheffield Wednesday Football Club or getting married? I know it's a difficult decision.
No,
Sophie's choice, right there.
we're not even talking about that. That's a horrible decision. At the end of the day, I have been going for 27 years. I'm not going to not go for the next 3 years. So I am very, very lucky that my mum was drunk the other night and agreed to pay for my season ticket as long as I paid her back in instalments over the next 3 years. So I'm all right. I mean, screw the rest of you. I'm paying 50 quid a month for the next 3 years. Screw you.
Charming.
It's it's an interesting one. We the 5 of us on this podcast have an ongoing Facebook conversation that's been going for many, many, many months, and uses about 3 gigabyte storage on our phone because it's all day, every day. We've got notifications going on, and we were discussing on New Year's Day the using video that came out to promote the season ticket, firstly, and then we were debating what we thought the price was going to be. And it's interesting. I look back earlier on today, and it's interesting. As I said, I wonder if the North. It'd be really good if the North was about 1,500. And a couple of people said, "Oh no, I think it'd be more than 2,000." And then in the end, we said, "Oh God, it could be as much as 3,000 over 3 years."
If you look at what was me, I said
it
more
was
than
you,
1,500.
yeah. I was trying not to single you out.
Slag me off all you want, James. You're doing it to my face. So
you were obviously hungover and in a bit of a bad mood, and
I was
on
in a bad
one.
mood.
But you did make me think, and I thought, looking at kind of the second and third phase prices this time around, a lot of people have said, oh, the early price for next season will be the same as the third phase prices were this year. A few people said that that's what they were expecting. So I really didn't know what to expect. And then when the prices did come out, and 3 season ticket is less than 1,500 quid, my immediate thought was, actually, that's really good value. That's clever as well, because immediately it made me think, I've got to find the money to pay for that. I know full well what happens. I really hope, and in a way I sort of expect us to get into the Premier League in the next 3 years. That seems to be the direction that we're heading in. And there's no way in the world that season ticket prices are going to go down when we get in the Premier League either. So, it is the best value. It's difficult because there's going to be some people that can afford it, some people that can't afford it, some people that can afford the finance as it stands now, some people that can't afford the finance. And for anyone that can't afford it, it's difficult because it's a carrot that's been dangled that they're not going to be able to take. I'm quite fortunate. I've been saving up for a deposit for a house for a long time now, so I've got some money in the bank, and I thought I'm going to buy a season ticket every year anyway. So financially, it makes sense. It makes sense for me to take money out of that and go and buy a 3-year season ticket, because over the next 3 years I'll save money. It's financially viable for me.
James, do you know if you moved to Hillsborough, you could put down 10 grand deposit and have a really, really nice house? So just put the rest on your season ticket, you'll be fine.
And then you can tell people, I can see the stadium from my
see the South Stand.
When did this become a discussion about where I should live?
Yeah, come and live near me.
I've got I've got friends, one of the friends that I sit with, he's got the money to be able to buy a 3-year season ticket. One of them hasn't, so he's going to have to do it on a year-by-year basis. So, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's going to be interesting to see what the uptake is on it.
So, of course, it's nice that the club are trying to look at other ideas, and it does give people other options, and I'm sure we shall see what comes of it. And, of course, if you do get your nice 3-year season ticket, you can have your little photo with the shirt and have a 3-year deal signed and a tweet sent out as well. Fantastic. Right then, ladies and gents, so let's move on to the previews of the next couple of games popping up. The first one, of course, is Fulham, again, this time at Hillsborough. We'll not go into too much detail regarding this game. Of course, we all know what to expect. The big thing from a Wednesday point of view, do we think we're going to see sort of wholesale changes from Carlos in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I suspect what we'll do is just pick Ross Wallace and just tell him to shoot from 38 yards out.
Stick him on the halfway line.
I think both teams will play completely different starting 11s. This is quite an interesting game of football in the respect that I don't think either team really wants to win it. I think that both teams would actually be quite glad to be out of the FA Cup at quite an early stage. So I think that they will both put out FA Cup teams on the basis, well, if we do go through to round 4, then we will play our FA Cup team again in round 4, and then it's not going to interfere too much in the league. So I think we'll see a very different team, quite a few changes. We may even see a couple of players that we've barely seen all this season. It would actually be a really good game for someone like McGugan to come back in, but obviously he's picked up a knock, so he's out. So the only kind of disappointing thing is that because of the injuries that we've got, there are a few players that probably won't be able to feature, and therefore we're going to have to play a couple of players that did play on Saturday. But we've got another league game around the corner. We've then got another big game against Leeds the following Saturday. So we can't play our strongest 11. And why would we want to? I mean, who cares about the FA Cup anymore? It doesn't matter. I think we go out there, and
sacrilege.
If we win with the kids, then great. If we don't, then who cares?
That's the spirit, old boy. The magic of the cup. Of course, it's going to be nice to have Fulham at our place as well, so they can come up here. And I'm sure they'll see some wonderful videos of Yorkshire from their fans wandering around the place as well. Of course, after the Fulham game, we do have the advent of Bolton again at Hillsborough 2. And it has to be said that Bolton aren't doing great guns at the moment, sort of nailed to the bottom of the Championship, but these are the kind of games that we tend to take a little bit for granted and maybe don't concentrate fully on, aren't they?
The good news with this one is that we've not got David Garrido on saying that it should be a straightforward win for us, because the two games where we've played teams that have been down there at the bottom of the table, and Garrido said that we'll walk it, we've lost both of them. So, let's not get any predictions from him on this one. They've been in terrible form, haven't they? And they just had a kind of a false start a couple of weeks ago where they won a game, and I think they'd drawn a game before that, and it looked like maybe they were just starting to turn things around a little, but I think they've lost a couple since then. So, I mean, it's the kind of game that, of course, we expect 3 points from. Carlos has got to approach it in the right way, play the right team, make sure he does, all the usual stuff with them, and they need to realise what kind of game it's going to be. But, I think we're going to be expecting 3 points from that.
Can I put out my lol of the day? If you go onto Bolton's website and you click on like fixtures, league, and it comes up Champions League table. You click on it and it's the Championship table, and Bolton are bottom. It's brilliant. It's like, let's look at the Champions League table.
Does that mean that all their fans are like, well, at least we'll drop into the Europa League?
Yeah,
Still got a chance of silverware.
Europa League, woo woo! Channel 5, here we come. But no, you've got Gary Medine, haven't you? There's not a lot going on there. I'm comfortable. I feel like if me and James set up a football team with Eddie up front, we'd win this. It's fine.
Of course, looking at Bolton's strike threats, we all know about Gary Medine. He is their joint top scorer with 4 goals this season, which is about par for Medine, if we're honest. What we've seen of him the last couple of years. I'm trying not to say it to give us that blinking curse that we seem to have. We should be winning this game without an issue. We really should be. Bolton, they're having a terrible time at the moment. And to be fair, I do feel a little bit for the Bolton fans. We've gone through it. We know what happens. But at the same time, we need those 3 points, don't we? Ipswich and Burnley drew at the weekend, which was fantastic news for us. So it closed that bit of a gap that was between us jumping into the playoffs. And these are the kind of games that we need to be winning to make sure we're sort of solidifying that position, aren't they?
Let's not pussyfoot around here. You've got to be the worst teams in the division. I'm not saying that we can't lose it. I'm not saying that it's impossible that Gary Medine doesn't score 4 goals and then run out of the South Stand and set fire to Carlos Cavallal's car. I'm not saying that that's an impossibility.
I think that's quite likely.
Well, probably. What I'm saying is that Bolton are the worst team that we will face this year by a country mile. So we absolutely should be getting 3 points out of them. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't win this one at a canter, at home, in front of a Wednesday fan base that has been really revived over the Christmas period. We've had some really good results. We're flying. It's unthinkable that we'd lose. But what will happen is we'll lose awkwardly 2-1, and then everything, the Wednesday fans will go, oh, it's terrible. We're an awful team. Carlos out. Nobody's played well. Nui needs to be shipped out, etc. You know what? Whether we win 8-0 against Bolton or lose 2-1 against Bolton or lose 8-0 against Bolton, it means nothing. It is one game. But this is the easiest opportunity we will get to pick up 3 points. So if we don't, we're going to have to do it somewhere else. So I'm really comfortable with us playing against this lot. I can't see any other result than a Wednesday win. And you know what? I don't think Gary Medine's going to be a factor because he's a rubbish football player and we've moved on.
It will be interesting to see Zach Clough play because he is one of many, many players that I've seen mentioned against our names that we might be keeping tabs on him. I think there's a lot of other Championship clubs that have had a look at him as well because I think he's one of their brightest prospects. Bolton have themselves more or less said, yeah, we are going to have to sell anyone we've got in our squad that's worth a bob or two during January. So it'll be interesting to actually see him play and see whether or not he may be worth a bit of a flutter for us.
The Wednesday week is proud to be associated with Cavendish Cancer Care. Cavendish is a Sheffield charity dedicated to improving the quality of life for people living with cancer. No one should face cancer alone, so Cavendish provides emotional support through counselling and complementary therapies. The services they provide are free of charge and are funded through donations. If you can help or would like to find out more information, you can go to www.cavcare.org.uk. That's CAVCARE.org.uk. Right then, ladies and gents, so of course we couldn't possibly close out the show without, hopefully, fingers crossed, James having a little bit or two for us.
I have a little bit. This is actually a bit of a personal little bit because I'm after a favour from someone, and I don't know who, but I'm after a favour from someone. The backstory to this is my sister is getting married in March. The guy she's getting married to is a Wednesday fan. So I'm trying to come up with a few little surprises for their wedding day. And what I need is a video of Carlos wishing a happy wedding day to Elizabeth and Tim. Hope you have a lovely day and a fantastic life together. Something along those lines. 10 seconds is fine. I can't tweet him to ask him whether or not he'll do this because my sister's fiance follows him and me on Twitter, so he will see it. I can't DM him because he doesn't follow me.
If only there was someone.
I am turning to the podcast family, the Sheffield Wednesday population, to ask anyone who maybe goes along to training quite regularly or maybe pops along to the press conference or stays to get signatures after the game, anyone that could get a 10-second video of Carlos wishing a happy wedding day and all that kind of stuff to Elizabeth and Tim and send it to me via the podcast, I will be eternally grateful and eternally thankful. I will buy you several beers in a pub of your choice to say thank you.
I blinking love Carlos, but do you really want on your sister's wedding day for Carlos looking awkwardly at Cameron and going, I see you in the crowd, and I really hope you sign a 3-year contract with the Sheffield Wednesday time now. Let's go.
Absolutely, that would be perfect. I'll settle for that.
I don't mean to be rude, James, and please don't think that I am, but you mentioned obviously that the big Wednesday fans, and you can't tweet Carlos because they'll see the tweets. Are they not podcast listeners?
Well, my sister's not a football fan. She couldn't give a toss about this, believe you me. Tim has listened to the podcast in the past, and I know that he does sometimes, so I'm still running a risk by talking about it, but I've waited until the end in the hope that maybe he'll have listened to it and got bored thinking, oh, they're all crap them, and switched it off. I don't know. This is, I thought, the least risky way of me going about this, other than just going and sitting outside Carlos's house with my phone waiting for him to come outside, which would probably result in me being arrested and possibly charged.
Right then, ladies and gents, so that is going to wrap up the show for this evening. Of course, James, if somebody does manage to get this wonderful video that we're after, where can people contact you, old boy?
Yes, drop me a line via my Twitter page, which is at James Marriott, which is R and T. I think me and Vic are we going to be in the Riverside Cafe on Saturday before the match for a couple?
Oh, yeah.
And then
But
in a break
I'm sober
from
January,
tradition,
James. That's the problem.
Well, I'm not, so you can just look after me. In a break with tradition after the match, we're actually going to be in the Rawson Spring up at Hillsborough Corner because we want to go and watch the Manchester United victory over Sheffield United. Manchester United match against Sheffield United in the FA Cup. So we'll be up there watching the game.
Fantastic. Of course, Victoria, my darling, if people would like to get hold of you on the social medias, where can we do that?
My love, you can find me at Victoria1867 on the Twitters. And I keep saying like my Facebook and stuff, but then people keep adding me and that's a bit odd. So just the Twitters, just at Victoria1867. Thanks.
Get over to Facebook, ladies and gents. And of course, Eddie, if you want to get hold of you, my old China, how can we do that?
Okay, so after Saturday, then the best place to get hold of me for at least a week will be on the slopes of the Three Valleys in France because I'm off skiing.
We're off.
Hashtag first world problems. You know what, though?
Hashtag middle class problems.
Yeah, so you know what I'm going to do, though? Because I love the podcast more than I love my life, is I'm going to take my muff and I'm going to try and do some interviews with real French people. I'm going to ask them whether they've heard of Sheffield Wednesday, whether they've got any idea what's going on.
Do you know of Eric Cantona?
Exactly. I'm going to regale them.
Have you seen him play on grass?
Yeah, I'm hoping that I can find the only Patrick Blondo fan left in all of France. So I'm going to take the muff out there and we'll see what we can get. But in the meantime, I will be on Twitter at SausageArm.
Of course, if you want to get hold of me over there on the Twitters, you can do that at Lord HSL0RD_H. If you'd like to get hold of the podcast, of course, you can do that at TWWcast. Send us an email at twwpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, you can get us over there, Facebook's over there as well. It's been a pleasure as always. Be good, be safe, and we shall see you real soon.
There's a chance here, a great save. A turner from the clear. Might come. A terrific goal by Sheridan.
Frenchman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there that would have trouble with saving that.
Most of you know that we all support Sheffield Wednesday, although there's lots of Blades fans listening because you're obsessed with us. I noticed on a few of your little message boards, in the little social media, a few of you have started to refer to us as Parson Cross Rovers, which I think is even more endearing than when you call us Wendy. So, you know what? I'm going to be spreading the good word of Parson Cross Rovers all over France. I am proud to be part of the Parson Cross Rovers massive. And we are massive. Unlike you lot, because it doesn't matter who I ask in France, no will have heard of you because you're irrelevant. So why don't you off?
So if people do want to get hold of you on the Twitters, old boy, how can we do that?
Sorry, any Blades fans who want to direct their complaints to me.
Cut out that swearing, you were so sweary.
So it's at Sausage Arms, and don't hesitate to use the hashtag I'm a fucking. I'll do that bit again. Sorry, I'll do that bit again.